Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Coworking Values Podcast. My name is Jelko, and Bernie and I today have been, we've been disconnected, and I haven't been able to join the conversation that Bernie had with John in this episode, but you're in for a treat. We have for you John Williams, the head of marketing of the Instant Group, who is sharing some of his insights and ways that can help you market your co-working space in 2021. But first, a word from our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Cobot, a leading management software for co-working spaces, offices, hubs, and flexible workspaces around the world. You know, one of the best things about Cobot is that it's produced by people who used to manage a co-working space and know the ins and outs of the main problems and issues that are bugging co-working managers. So if you want more time for your coworkers and community, check out Cobot at cobot.me and take your co-working management to the next level.
So, John, what are you known for, and what would you like to be known for?
I think I'm known for being head of marketing at the Instant Group and droning on and on about co-working and flex data. And what I wish I was known for was being the composer of the Jaws theme, Indiana Jones, and Star Wars, among other theme tunes. Sadly, that's the wrong John Williams.
That would be great. I was trying to make the connection there. I was racking my brain like, who's that? That's John Williams.
Exactly.
That is great.
My brother is actually Robbie Williams too, but not that one either. So either way, we're a bit stuffed.
And it was David Bowie's birthday anniversary of David Bowie's death yesterday, which while we're on music, I just had to get that in there.
Well, we should swap David Bowie playlist later, right? If that's the day for it, isn't it?
There's don't tempt me. So listen, I want to be really sophisticated, but a lot of people are saying like, how the hell do I market my co-working space during COVID? Because this time last year, I was all really excited and I had this, love marketing, live for it. And I was like, these are, we can create a sales funnel, get some content, get up on Instagram. And then like, that's all fallen apart. And just to sort of set my query up a bit is, what us have seen is people trying to, and not, it's a really hard thing to do, is try to do their co-working space online.
Yeah.
And maybe that hasn't quite worked. And a lot of things, I've been doing marketing co-working spaces for a decade, and it's always been very dependent on people seeing each other in the same room. So what do we do, John? I'm asking for a friend.
Well, there's two things I would do, and neither are very particularly palatable, but needs must, right? So first up is the chance to spring clean your CRM, get into your contacts database of existing and previous customers, and just start marketing and networking to them, talking to them as much as you can via the channels which are available to you, which sadly at the moment are going to be email and virtual. And that is a really piece of obvious advice for you. But I know if everyone's honest with themselves, no one quite keeps their CRM up to scratch or looks after it in the way that they should have done. Some do, but most don't, I would argue. And I would suggest that lockdown is the perfect time, if you've got the time, to get in there and clean it up, make sure the contacts are up to date, and start trying to speak to people, because they may not be customers within the next month or 2 months, but when all this is done and dusted, people are going to be looking for space, and now's the time to make sure your contact details are in front of them. And that's some really obvious advice for you. The second thing I say is, there is an inevitability that, given how competitive the market's going to be, I would really boringly suggest that know your brokers and make sure that the brokers in the market are very necessary evil, have up-to-date contact information and sales and center updates from you as operators, because they are getting a huge amount of interest. I can speak on behalf of Instant. We've never seen demand traffic like it. Now, it's not converting into deals, but this week alone in January, we're seeing record traffic levels. So a record number of people are searching for London and UK office space. We're literally up 25% on this January at this time last year, which is remarkable when you think about it. We're in lockdown. So the interest is there. And when that comes to market, I think people will be all over it. So to get advantage of that, I would say make sure brokers have all the best possible details for your centers so they can transact on your behalf when the time arises. Is that really prosaic? But it's based on data. So
we're doing a podcast. So if I contradicted you, it'd be embarrassing. But so a couple of questions there, John. I'm about 2 years ago. I need to go and do it again, and because I'm a pedantic idiot. I signed up for 25 co-working spaces in the UK for their email newsletters. So I could write a post that said how many people didn't email people, and I spent the price of a small car to go and get trained by Donald Miller and his Story Brand people, and his key thing was like you need to have an email list, and everything I've ever read, whether they're like slimy 10x salespeople or people like Copy Blogger and Robust Marketing people and HubSpot and all those people is like have an email list.
Yeah.
And I don't know many people who keep in the co-working. I know there are people definitely, but I'm amazed at how many people do not keep an email newsletter.
Which is criminal, because newsletter in itself is just the most, as you said, prosaic word. I mean, it just sounds like social death, doesn't it? But the reality is I've seen some really good email newsletter networking during lockdown. The likes of Office Space and Town, WeWork, those guys, they're smashing it. They're contacting their customers all the time, trying to keep the community collaboration alive and doing it wonderfully. And it is the most basic marketing thing. But content aside, the veracity of that data and making sure it's up to date is, you live or die by that. And if you spend the last, as I know you have, last X number of years working in this community and building up your data list, that's gold to you. Those customers and those contacts, all the collaboration, all the community you strive towards will only be as good as the sum of that data, and hoping those customers get in touch with you. So the point I'd say is if you haven't done that, why not? It is just the most obvious marketing 101 thing to do. And it is dull and it feels very prosaic, but it's a very necessary evil.
That's what saved our co-working assembly. I mean, it wasn't much to save, but like in lockdown is we, me personally, and all the different projects we've been doing, like non-stop, we've been emailing people, not like emailing people 25% off if you buy before midnight, but like here's what is going on, and when everyone had to go home, we could still get in contact with them.
Yeah, exactly that. And those businesses that didn't and haven't and aren't GDPR compliant, which is another necessary evil, where are they at now? I read famously, actually, I don't know if you saw this, when Ocado moved on, I heard that Waitrose didn't retain most of the contact details of all those customers they've been giving food to for the last decade. Can you believe that? So in all that time with Ocado and using their brilliant supply chain and delivering goods to people's homes, when Ocado switched to M&S, what are Waitrose left with? Nothing. No customer details, hopefully some brand loyalty. They lost their supply chain and their customer details. The latter arguably being even more important than the former. It's remarkable, isn't it?
I feel for them. Oh my God. What
are you thinking, right?
That's too much to take. So what should I email my people? Because that's where people get stuck. Because
No, they do get stuck. I mean, and people do tend to overthink it. I mean, first of all, I'd say, what are people talking about and using your space for on any given day? And that's highly dependent upon your space. But to pick a hypothetical space, say like a scale-up place in Shoreditch, they're going to be talking about all the things that startups and scale-ups need and worry about, which is legal advice, HR advice, how to grow, taxation, any of those business functions, which co-working centers are usually great at having a kind of a collective group consciousness around. People will really be missing that. Those kind of things that you don't actively call someone to talk about, but you do chat about over a coffee and pick someone's brain. Much, Bernie, in the way that you and I kind of met, it's just to have a chat and to have a chance to collaborate. People are missing that immensely. And I think small businesses most of all, because you don't have such a wide circle of people to reach out to and have a chat with. So I think if newsletters can be as conversational or as informal as you like, but make sure you nail those topics and think, right, what are people talking about in my center on any given day? What do I talk to them about and my community sort of operatives think about? And from there, I think you can start to get a really good picture of what you should put in your newsletter. And the beauty of email newsletters, I always think, is given the technology out there, it's very easy to do A/B testing. So put in certain topics one week. If it gets read, look at the data. If it doesn't get read, bin them, try again next week, and keep on checking on that via an email tool. And sooner or later, it will tell you what people are reading, and that will inform your strategy of the future.
It will, and what people click on, you can track all that. It's like sending out a little like, what's up with you folks every week. And the other thing, ladies and gentlemen, is that if you email people, I think you should email people every week. I've been doing that for years and years and years, and people don't need to open every single one. And if they just see, John Williams, Bernie Mitchell, Acme Co-working Space in their email box every week, when they wake up and go, oh, I need somewhere to go, they'll know who you are already, whether they've read that email or not.
Completely. I think a lot of companies beat themselves up thinking, oh, am I spamming people? What's going to happen? Should I be sending out once a week? I'm with you. I think once a week is fair enough, especially if you've got an engaged audience as you have, and you shouldn't overthink it. Once a quarter, it's not even really meaningful, is it? I don't think people really will engage you. There has to be a degree of consistency that they see your name pop up in their inbox. But to that point, consistency is key. It needs to be on an ongoing basis, doesn't it? So it becomes habitual, really, to see that email and to answer it, or otherwise.
And then we'll get to the broker thing because I think that's important. The email thing, because I love email.
I can tell.
If you're GDPR compliant, you're not spamming people. Yeah. It's that easy.
Well, also not overthinking GDPR, because I don't know what you think, Bernie, but if it's legitimate interest, it's relevant to why people gave you their email in the first instance. If they're a business, if they've signed up, that's all good. You can email them, right?
Exactly. And I know if you think people are less inclined to put their email address in a website nowadays. But particularly in the kind of people that would be listening to this, or running something, or in business in general. So if you put your email address in a website, there's a high level of consent there, mm-hmm. and people can unsubscribe at any time, and that's it. And you're not spamming people. And if you sign up for office information and start getting cookware products, it's a mismatch, or you've abused the trust rather than deliberate spamming. Anyway, let's jump to the broker thing, because everyone always goes, "Oh, brokers." And at some point, I just guess that say the market everyone starts looking for an office space in 3 months' time, they're going to go to brokers, and those brokers are going to be your best friends, even though they're not supposed to be.
Well, I mean, look, I can only tell you honestly, there are so many clients coming to the brokers right now. The brokers are doing everything they can to maintain those relationships and work really hard for their clients and give them the best advice. So, and brokers, if Google continues to exist and work the way it does, and brokers continue to use their CRMs, they will be in the market. So using them and making sure they have the right information does seem to be pertinent to all businesses, but it's a two-way relationship. I mean, I totally acknowledge that a lot of people sort of do not want to use them or even resent using them, but they will bring deals to the table. They'll bring bigger deals. I mean, over the summer, Instant put 1,000 BP employees into TOG in North London. I mean, that is a substantial deal, but BP only did that because they have a relationship with Instant, and that will continue to be the case. Do you know what I mean? And brokers that have the luxury of being able to work those relationships and work them really hard. So there's always been intermediaries in the B2B world, and I suspect there probably always will be, much as there will be estate agents in one form or another. So it's just working out the best way to try and use them and make sure they work on your behalf, isn't it?
I think it's about relationships. Do you know Clue Train Manifesto?
No, I don't actually.
Oh, I'll send you a link after this. Clue Train Manifesto is written in the 1999 or something, mm-hmm. and it's about how people will screw up the internet if we let them.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's the sort of thing I'd imagine you would. And in it, there's a thing that all markets are conversations. And I know people who were brokers themselves and now run a co-working space, and they have a great relationship with all those brokers. And there's people that sign up to a broker and then hate them because they never talk to them. And do you think that's a deciding factor? I'm assuming that, but
I think one way. To your point, one way of making sure the broker is actually fulfilling your narrative. I mean, they are going to be the first point of contact for a huge number of customers, and they are going to tell the story of your space to their clients. So surely I would say the best way of ensuring it's done on your terms is to brief them, do site tours, make sure they have all the available information at their fingertips. So when they tell that story, it's done very much in your terms, and it can be conveyed in the way you'd expect and want it to be. And we hear that again and again. I mean, in the heady days when we were in offices, I'd sit near the brokers and hear them talk to their clients, and they were all over that, giving the backstories and the narratives. That's the role they fulfill in the market, and that is eminently controllable by operators. And as you say, experienced operators who've worked in some of those sales-facing jobs do just that. They spend a lot of time with the brokers, ensuring that their story gets told the way they'd expect it to be.
I have another question. We're going to shift gears, as people say in podcasts. So I'm very excited about the local, regional. Like I think. Do you live in? Is Kingston like zone 6?
Barely. We scrape in there, but we're just out there. We call ourselves West Richmond because it sounds better until Richmond got shut down for COVID. Now we're trying to be East Kingston again. We changed it.
That sounds like me when I lived by Finchley Road Tube and I used to tell people I lived in Hampstead.
Exactly.
And that was disappointing when people came around. So I really want people to be not travelling into town as much as they would. And I want co-working spaces to open up in zone 6, 5 and 4. And I'm always banging this, local co-working 15-minute city. So, live on air, you can either like endorse my ambition or piss on it completely. Like what's going to happen?
I think it will happen. I think it will, but it won't happen unless the market moves that way, right? So the demand will be there. The demand is there. I can tell you now from the data and from conversations with operators across the country. You think about somewhere like suburban Manchester has been operating at 85 to 90% occupancy during lockdown, but central Manchester has been about 25%. So the data is there. Customers want to do it. They want this change. The inhibitor is, and I know you've experienced this yourself, is what is the quality of space like and the quality of experience in those markets? Because what I don't think will happen is someone swapping a really nice, cool, fun Shoreditch office space, which is right next to brilliant restaurants and bars, for a kind of slightly half-baked, open-plan, strip lighting place in Zone 7, even if it's really near to their house, because then it wouldn't outweigh the commute kind of time balance value metric with it. So it's the ambition. Well, I know the ambition's there. It's the ability of the market to create the supply that really matches that demand. Because my estimate is, and this is quite back of the fag packet, if demand comes true in the regions and the suburbs, I think existing co-working spaces will run out of supply within about 18 months. Does that make sense? Because there just won't be enough.
Yeah.
And so what will the market do about it?
Well, where I am here in Workhive in sunny Ilford, opposite the pub I used to go to when I was like 18 and didn't know this building was here. And that was a long time ago. The pool is like at capacity. And we were kind of like, oh yeah, we want to move in here. And he's like, well, you better hurry up, mate, because there's there's a queue. And it's not many co-working spaces I've been to where there's a queue of people waiting to get in.
But there is in Kingston again. We've only got 4 or 5 decent-ish centres, and they've done really well during lockdown. It's the same story. So again, it's how do you quickly cater for that market demand? Because I do worry that if it's not there, if supply isn't there, then customers will vote with their feet and think, oh, I'm going to have to go back to central London again because there just isn't anywhere locally, or I'll spend that extra 30 grand and I'll deck out my spare room. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
I think it's a very binary choice, but that will happen.
So I live like 10 minute cycle ride from my our co-working space in my home, and it's like drop my son at school for 10 minutes from school because his mother's a NHS hero, and he gets to, and I just didn't want to get up this morning, and the thought of only having to cycle for 10 minutes, most of that downhill, got me here today. It's amazing. Whereas before it would have been going into town, and oh my god, even outside of pandemic. So the last little move is what about the word co-working? Because because there's flex space, shared space, and everything. What's the best term we could be using at the moment? And I'm not suggesting everyone goes and changes their brand name, but I
don't know if there is a best term. I mean, I heard initially, and it's kind of gone a bit quiet. Initially, the term, you saw those articles, co-working is dead. No one could ever talk about co-working again. We're all going to want to work in isolation, and so on and so forth. But look, I think the analogy I keep on using, which is actually slightly starting to bore me, though, is I think we're in a situation that's a bit like an elastic band. We've stretched one way into isolation, into lockdown, into social distancing. I just get this sense that when the opportunity arises and the vaccine is here, it will snap back the other way, and we'll really relish being somewhere community-based and around people and feeling all those things that we haven't felt for the best part of a year, i.e. community. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so part of me always wants to be contrarian and say, actually, I think co-working could really fly post-vaccine because it'll be everything we haven't had for 12 months. So I'm not really answering you, Emma. I think it's all good. I think flex space is my catch-all because there's so much there within it. Co-working for me is something slightly more specific. But I think more to the point is, will all office space start moving more towards these terms? Actually, is the big kind of topic here, because clients just don't want to hear it about signing leases, do they? Or long-term arrangements or long-term deals. For them, I think office space is increasingly going to mean a desk, and an office space will mean a small amount of desks in the location of their choosing.
So is Giles going to have to change his company to office space just outside town?
Well, Giles had a great time. I mean, his Northampton centres, because that's where they initially opened. I mean, they've been absolutely flying. They've had a great time up there, for the reasons we've discussed earlier on the call. So he has got an interesting conundrum, a real opportunity, because he's smashed the regional model. His question, does he do more of it? Because obviously he's been more focused on his London centres of late. But what more can he do with his OSIT model? As an acronym, I always struggle OSIT a bit, doesn't it? But it's got potential for growth, I suppose.
I'm going to have to resist that. We got like 16 seconds left because I have to go and get lunch. So we'll see you again, John. But where can we find you? Is there any report we can put in the show notes?
Yeah, please come to www.theinstantgroup.com and check out our research section there with all our research and market insight around the world. If not, email me at john.williams@theinstantgroup.com and I will try and furnish you the more data requests or whatever you need. Always very happy to talk research and data. As you know, Bernie, hopefully I'm really passionate about the sector, love talking about it, love talking about the numbers. I'm always available for a chat about any of the above.
And I'm going to keep you around because I'm going to start quoting you and then people might get us muddled up because of our glasses and haircut. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and attention today. If you go to coworkingassembly.eu and wait for an embarrassingly short time, there'll be a pop-up that comes up, put your email address in there. And as John and I said, email is how we keep in touch. That email list is full of all the projects from the co-working library to events, online communities, rural co-working, and this podcast in your mailbox every week. Absolutely no spam, fully GDPR compliant. Thanks very much. Cheers for your time, John.
Cheers. Thank you.